Yo lads, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel and Merry Christmas to you all. Or, if you don't celebrate Christmas, just good day to you all. And today, yep, excuse the Call of Duty gameplay, but I am going to be talking about The Witcher. The game and the TV series and how it's booked this trend of shit video game adaptations. Now, I know before all of you start flying in the comments, well, actually, it was a book before it was a video game. I know that, but let's be honest, what do most people know? The game or the book? Let me answer you that. The fucking game. Game of Thrones had a very big following in terms of the books before it was adapted for the big screen, the TV screen should I say. The Witcher, it did in Central Europe. The books were quite well known in Poland, in Czech Republic, not in the UK, not in the US, not Japan, these places where The Witcher 3 sold massively and The Witcher 2. So the fact that they've adapted it from the games. Let's be honest, they took inspiration from the games. The people who've created the Witcher TV show and high ups at Netflix haven't been looking at how well the books have been selling. They looked at how well the video games sold, some of the best selling games of all time, and some of the highest rated video games of all time, and for good reason. The Witcher video game series is my personal favourite of all time. The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3 were absolute masterclasses. They were perfect games. I don't think you could pick out much wrong with either of those games. I challenge you to in the comments to pick out more than 5 flaws, even minor flaws that you could pick out with those games, and I'd even struggle to do that. And I am harsh on most damn games. But I'll admit, I've got a real soft spot for The Witcher 3. And Witcher 2. But The Witcher, the TV show, or Netflix series, might be the first adaptation to actually be good. Actually a good TV show. I've watched 3 episodes so far and I'm really enjoying it. Henry Cavill to play Geralt was perfect casting choice. Like, perfect. I was really skeptical when they cast Superman. You're like, oh, fucking hell, Superman's going to play Geralt. But it does brood him perfectly. Geralt just broods all the way through the game. He's like, oh, Triss, oh, Yennefer, oh, Dandelion. Geralt, I mean, it's a perfect casting choice. I've got to give him props for that. Henry Cavill, you have nailed Geralt. From what I've seen so far anyway, you've not put a foot wrong. It might get worse as the series goes on, but I can only imagine him getting better and better. And they've announced they are going to do Series 2, so it must be doing really well. At the current time, it's the most watched Netflix thing in the UK. It was #1 in the UK today and yesterday. Even on Christmas Day, it's #1. The reviews aren't, I mean, some are great, some are shit, but I think lots of people who are watching The Witcher are going to be coming from the video game. Personally, my expectations were really high because of playing the video game. I didn't want them to stray too far away from the path, and there's some SJW choices in terms of casting. I'm not gonna lie, like they've changed some of the characters' skin color and stuff. I just think there's no room for that really. I think it's stupid. But in terms of the general, I don't know, I want to say goodness of the show, it's good. It's not up to Game of Thrones standards, but it's got time to progress to that. Because I remember Game of Thrones season 1 was awful. It was so boring in my opinion. It started heating up around the end of season 2, season 3, and then season 4, and I was hooked from that point on. And then they went and ruined it with season 8, which was just fucking awful. Now they've got a great foundation. The Witcher books are fantastic. The games are fantastic. I mean, they're flawless. So they've got real expectations are really heavy for them on the TV show. And I think they've done their best to meet them. I mean, I don't think the director was the right choice. Some of the cast, I can argue that they weren't the correct choice. Henry Cavill's fantastic. I'll be honest, I've never heard of any of the other actors. They're all relatively unknown. But this could be the start of their career, just like Game of Thrones was the start of many other actors' careers, and now you see them in tons of things. Actually, one of the thugs which Geralt sliced the head off, I think it was in the beginning of the 2nd episode, he was in Peaky Blinders, which is a British BBC TV show. Fantastic show. If you haven't watched that, go and give it a watch. Him and Henry Cavill are the only 2 actors I recognised in the show. I don't know any of the other names. None of them seem like big names to me. Superman's a massive acquisition, and the fact they killed someone who was a major character in Peaky Blinders in like the second episode proves they don't care about names. They don't care about getting big names. They've got Superman, and they're not bothered about the rest. That's how it seems to me, lads. Anyway, I want to know how the rest of you feel. I mean, I think it's broke the trend of bad. I don't want to say video game adaptations because it was originally a book, but let's say video game adaptations because 95% of us know The Witcher from the video game, and that'll be why Netflix picked it up and wanted to do a series on it, because it was one of the most popular video game franchises of all time, and it was single player only, and they were able to acquire the rights to it for relatively cheap. Now they've got this huge world that they can do so much things with. There's so many different creatures in it, there's monsters, there's so many different people they can choose from, there's so many different stories they can do. The possibilities are literally endless in terms of The Witcher's license. They could do a film adaptation, and they've got the license now for good Netflix, and Netflix have got the budget to pump into this. Now, one thing I did notice in the first episode, there was so many... in the first battle when they were raiding the castle, some of the effects looked fucking awful. They looked cheap. I thought, we're not going to get this for the rest of the season of it. And no, surprisingly, it picked up. I don't know if the first episode had like £1 million budget and the rest had like £4 or £5 million. It was pretty strange. Maybe it was just the effects they chose to have, or they wanted to make them more video game effective. Like when they were all running into the castle and they couldn't get past because of the magical barrier. It looked a bit cheap and tacky. I'm not gonna lie. Some of the initial casting I thought was dreadful. Ciri's grandmother, I didn't think that was the best casting choice. It just seemed a bit forced. Lots of the interactions between her and Ciri, and was it her brother or uncle, whoever he was? That seemed a bit forced. And then just a couple of the soldiers and the initial wizard. They just seemed a bit, And lads, if you come into this and you're wanting lots of Game of Thrones feels, you're going to get them. You're going to get them a lot. There's nudity here, the language is here. It's got a unique sense of humour, a bit like Game of Thrones with Tyrion. You get the banter between Tyrion and Bronn. You get that between Geralt and Dandelion. It's got all the... it's got the formula. Is it going to utilise the formula correctly? We know how Game of Thrones did. We know how it did amazing. It's the highest rated TV show of all time and the most watched of all time. Now, to me, it seems like Netflix want to steal the viewers that Game of Thrones had, and I've seen so many people migrate across. Not that you can't be a fan of both, but people were so utterly pissed off by the last season of Game of Thrones, they're looking for another sort of medieval-y fantasy setting, and The Witcher is the perfect setting. It's got the nudity, it's got the humour, it's got tons of different characters, it's got the monsters, it's got these enemies that make you tremble when you see him fight some of these creatures. It's got everything Game of Thrones fans want. And all these Game of Thrones pages that I've been following on Facebook have now migrated to fully posting the Witcher TV show content because they've just run out of Game of Thrones content. The series is finished and we're not going to get any prequels or sequels for the foreseeable future. So they've migrated over onto covering the Witcher content, and they're doing well for themselves. And people are liking it. Now, of course, not everyone's going to stop watching Game of Thrones and run across to The Witcher and think it's the best thing since sliced bread. I do have a lot of criticisms, but it does tick a lot of the same boxes that Game of Thrones used to tick for me. It's got violence, it's got the medieval setting, it's got fantasy, it's got adult language, it's got some adult scenes. We all want to see that. It's just a great fucking TV show. And anyone who says they doesn't want to see those scenes, they're just fucking lying. The nudity scenes are sometimes awkward, but they're sometimes funny, and they're sometimes just cool to watch. And it ticks all the boxes, lads. I've got to be honest. It is like Game of Thrones 2.0 without Dan and Dave. Don't let those two cunts anywhere near this. I'm not happy with who's directing it currently, The Witcher, so I couldn't imagine if those two fucking twats try getting their hands on this. They'd make it even worse. They'd derive it so far away from the books and the game, like they did with Game of Thrones. They just ruined that on the last season. I pray to God this, as it gets further and further down the line, Netflix don't rush it and don't just go for the money and don't just want to drive up Netflix subscriptions by rushing these out of the door because they've seen the viewership on this as, I think it's one of Netflix's most viewed original shows of all time. So I'm hoping they don't see that and try and churn out another series in another series 2 in 6 months. 'Cause then I won't be happy. Then I'll be a bit pissed off, and it'll go the same way Game of Thrones did. There are my initial thoughts on the Witcher TV show. I think it could fulfill that. It could fill that gap that Game of Thrones has left. We want in a medieval fantasy set world, and nothing seemed to be getting that itch. I mean, the budget in this does seem a little bit lower, but you've got some good, some of the casting choices are great. Got the gore, we've got everything there. You've got the banter, you've got the humour. It just looks like it's going to be a good show. If season 1's anything to go off so far, if the first episode's slow, stick with it if you're going to start watching it. It picks up after episode 2, and people are saying it gets really good towards the end. I've only watched 3 episodes, so please no spoilers, lads, because I will have to fucking block your comment then, and I'll be a cunt. But lads, please let me know your thoughts on the Witcher TV show in the comments below, because I'd love to know. Hit thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, hit dislike. I'm sorry it's not specifically gaming content today, but it's something I've wanted to talk about for a while. When I saw it released on Netflix, I wanted to cover it. I was going to do a full-blown SJW rant, but I've watched it. It's good. There's no point doing rants when they're not fully needed. I know some of you are like, oh, come on, Harry, when you see a rant. It's coming, boys. It's coming. When a game pisses me off, you'll be the first to fucking hear about it. You're the only place I post these videos, so stay tuned. Anyway, lads, I'll leave you and love you. I'll see you all in the next one. Please subscribe and share this video with your friends if you haven't already. Love you all. Peace.
These girls wanna tie a kid down and keep me around, but I would never change. I'm a dog, I'm a hound, but I tell them what they wanna hear. They like how it sound till I'm gone with the wind and I'm lost, never found. I met her at my show, then we smashed right after. If we go 3 rounds, then she fall in love faster. Very next morning, I'm Casper in another city for a show somewhere getting